and welcome to Eagle News International Australia Oceania. I'm Shane Reyes from Sydney, bringing you stories from Australia, New Zealand and Papua New Guinea. For the headlines, Victorian Police enforces COVID-19 safety protocols amid Melbourne protests. State election candidates debate over national issues. Palaszczuk carries on as Queensland's Premier. Church of Christ in New Zealand supports local residents through aid to humanity. Church of Christ in Papua New Guinea conducts aid to humanity and provides relief to hard-up communities. Library users in Logan City benefit from new online access and digital resources. Sydney's Grounds of Alexandria feature all-time favourite Cinderella. Canberra locals share tips for a safe and fun summer. And Brisbane's renowned Jacaranda Trees blossom in the heart of the city. Here's our first story. Days after very tight restrictions were finally lifted, Victorian police took action as anti-lockdown protesters rallied in Melbourne, Australia. Let's hear more from our Eagle News correspondent, Daryl Castellanos. Daryl?
A crowd of demonstrators gathered in Melbourne CBD outside Parliament House on Tuesday, November 3rd. More than 400 people took part in an anti-lockdown protest, resulting in multiple arrests and fines by police, and one injured policewoman who was taken to the hospital after getting injured during the shutdown. Over 400 people were arrested and penalties were issued by the Victorian police following the anti-lockdown rally that took place in Melbourne CBD. After the announcement of easing restrictions by Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews, many people were left unsatisfied and expressed their discontent towards the strict lockdown that was enforced over the last few months. Capsicum spray was used to control the crowd. The police formed a large circle around them to restrict their movements. Of those arrested, 395 penalty notices were issued for violating the 25-kilometer travel zone, public gathering guidelines, and mandatory use of masks. Other protesters were charged with police assault and failing to give their personal information, while others were either fined before releasing or taken to custody. One policewoman was injured during the rally shutdown and was sent to the hospital for a suspected broken arm. On the other hand, one male officer appeared to have had a scuffle with a protester who was later arrested. A policewoman's spokesperson expressed her disappointment to the people who disregarded the safety of the whole community. However, the Victoria Police will also not hesitate to do what they have to ensure everyone follows the rules. Despite the recent event, government authorities understand the people's distress and are hopeful that over the following days, the people of Melbourne will be able to overcome the difficulties they have faced the past few months, while both sides try to help each other to redeem their freedom. Reporting from Melbourne, Australia, this is Daryl Castellanos, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Daryl. We hope the situation settles very soon. Meanwhile, in Queensland, nearing state election, the two women candidates from opposing parties engaged in a debate on various national issues. After days of waiting, Anastasia Palaszczuk triumphs and carries on as Queensland's Premier. Here's our correspondent in Gold Coast, Diego Madronio, for the story. Diego?
Amidst the current electoral campaigns taking place per sector in the city of Gold Coast to complete the 57th Parliament, a competition with more nationally and socially significant ramifications took place on the 30th of October. For 3 terms, Anastasia Palaszczuk and her Labour Party government have been the primary leaders of Queensland and have even successfully dealt with the coronavirus station that rocked Australia months prior. It's because of this excellent reputation and history of effectiveness that she holds a lead over her fellow female rival Deb Franklington and the Liberal National Party. The competition, however, is still close, and in disregarding the competition in its entirety, political and social history has already been made. For the first time in history, there have been 2 elected female Queensland leaders representing both parties. Current Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk and her opposition leader Deb Franklington had their second and final debate and discussed key points, each bringing up their own interesting responses. The main discussion of the night was the border closures, as hours before this head-to-head meeting, the Premier announced that Queensland would officially open its borders to New South Wales, excluding Greater Sydney, whilst also remaining closed to Victoria. Franklington accused Palaszczuk of politicising the border issue, citing the lack of information regarding poll results and taxpayer money contributions to border closures. Another major issue discussed on the night regarded euthanasia, a form of voluntary assisted dying through injection. The Labour Party revealed their plans to introduce voluntary assisted dying legislation within months if re-elected, and capitalizing on this sensitive subject, Frecklington acknowledged the party's cooperation with the Law Reform Commission, whilst also drawing attention to the serious impacts of the legislation should Palaszczuk win the electoral. Palaszczuk noted her own grandmother's passing during the pandemic as a driving point behind this decision. After the tense discussion between the two, both parties waited restlessly for the 31st of October, where not only would Queensland natives vote for their local area leaders but choose between the rivaling parties. On-site ballots were collected and counted, and after 4 days of patience, it was finally announced that for her fourth term in office, Anastasia Palaszczuk and her Labour Party would remain as the incumbent premier and government. With the crux of the re-elected premier's argument verging on her success during the COVID-19 pandemic, she attributes her success to the cooperation of the people of Queensland. She has already made history, being the first woman to win 3 elections in Australian history, and credited the revival of the Labour Party to her success following its spectacular loss against the Liberal Party in 2012. With 93 new members in the Legislative Assembly of Queensland, we can only await the future decisions and legislations of these well-deserving individuals. Reporting from Gold Coast, Australia, Eagle News, I'm Diego Madronio. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Diego, for that update in Queensland. Heading now to New Zealand. The Iglesia Ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, continues to show its humanitarian spirit through the Aid to Humanity program. Let's find out more from our Eagle News correspondent, Greg Besser. Greg?
Members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ in New Zealand have shown once more their love, care, and compassion to their fellow men in need who have been economically affected by the deepening impact of pandemic in this country. Through the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, the charitable arm of the church, members have put their efforts together to undertake aid to humanity, motivated by their strong faith to help those in need whenever they possibly can. In New Zealand, the Aid to Humanity undertaking, led by the district's supervising minister, Brother Dennis Dahunan, were conducted in 6 main sites encompassing the cities and districts in the North and South Islands, namely Auckland, Invercargill, Christchurch, Wellington, Hutt Valley, and Levind. Though the inter-country was under COVID-19 alert level 1 guidelines, wherein face covering was not required, those members who were present in different sites were encouraged to follow health and hygienic measures, including wearing a face mask, so as to ensure that assistance would reach to the most disadvantaged members of communities. A total of 1,991 goodwill bags containing basic commodities were distributed to the leaders of 42 community and religious organizations. Symbolic checks were handed over to all dignitaries, including government officials, political and community leaders who attended the turnover ceremonies in various locations in the country. They were also informed about the Aid to Humanity that was simultaneously happening worldwide.
I'm just here really to acknowledge your kindness and the work that you've done. I know it's an important part of the work that you do to demonstrate care for others, and I think this is a fantastic example of how you do it.
I would only express my gratitude and thanks for the Aid to Humanity project that the church has set up. I know that this happens throughout the world, and we are particularly fortunate that you have chosen to be part of it.
It's an incredibly generous organisation of the Church of Christ, and especially as a whole global organisation, and the goodwill of what the whole church does.
We did not realise the vulnerability and poverty that exists in Auckland for a lot of families, especially those who lost the salaries of breadwinners and the struggle they go through. And this is absolutely amazing that the Church of Christ has acknowledged that there is poverty in Auckland.
On behalf of the Philippine Embassy, we'd like to congratulate the Iglesia Ni Cristo for their efforts in launching the Aid to Humanity under the auspices of the Felix Manalo Foundation. And I understand this is not just happening in New Zealand. But the wonderful thing is this is occurring in specific congregations.
Reporting for Eagle News New Zealand Bureau, this is Greg Bessa. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Greg, for sharing a truly inspiring update. Meanwhile, in Papua New Guinea, the same support is extended to the poverty-stricken communities as the members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo or Church of Christ held another Aid to Humanity event. Our Eagle News correspondent, Eko Hortaleza Kinola, reports from Port Moresby. Eko?
Citizens of Papua New Guinea have once again witnessed a huge and remarkable Aid to Humanity event led by the Iglesia Ni Cristo or the Church of Christ. This program reached not only the capital city, Port Moresby, but also various far-flung provinces of Ley City, Mount Hagen, Madang, Wewak, and Goroka. In line with the Church of Christ's advocacy to fight poverty and to commemorate the natal day of their executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, the Church of Christ members in Papua New Guinea, led by Australia West District Minister Brother Romeo E. Beltran, who earlier officiated an online evangelical mission via video conferencing, conducted an Aid to Humanity activity. Ministers of the Gospel, Brother Regino Manangan Jr., Brother Edmark Velasco, and Brother D. Brian Companion simultaneously conducted evangelical missions in the remote areas.
Why we propagate the gospel or why we spread the good news all over the world, in every places, in every country, and even in the far-flung areas. Because we firmly believe only in knowing the truth, the people can have the chance for their salvation. We continue also to help the poor because it is also a God's commandment. As the Bible says, blessed are those who are kind to the poor. So the Iglesia Ni Cristo, Church of Christ, will not stop to spread the good news, to help the poor, because these are all commandments of God.
The underprivileged people from June Valley in Port Moresby, Doyle Eriku, Banana Block, Wagang Sipaya Malahang in Ley City, and Togoba Western Highlands in Mount Hagen were able to receive food parcels and care packages from the church members to help them ease their hunger and sufferings caused by the challenges and hardships brought by this global pandemic.
I should thank you for Church of Christ to come here to our village and to share the word of God, of Jesus Christ. Church of Christ is different. It's very different from other churches that it based all its teaching on the Bible. And that I believe it.
It's a first of its kind here, bringing aid to all these, people here. I believe God's love has drawn you guys to come and, give all this.
Thank you very much, Church of Christ and Brother Eduardo Manalo.
The Church of Christ members were welcomed with great delight and gratitude by the recipients of their outreach program in fighting poverty, notably for their overflowing care in their mission to provide the needs and support the people of Papua New Guinea. Reporting from Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Eko Hortaleza Quinola, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Eko. The Church's humanitarian spirit is indeed uplifting. After the break, we will hear of Logan City's new online and digital resources for library users. Also, let's take a sneak peek of a fairy tale moment captured in the Grounds of Alexandria in Sydney. Plus, we will learn some tips on staying safe while having fun in the coming summer season. And let's be delighted with Brisbane's most raved about purple Jacaranda trees blossoming in the city. All these stories when Eagle News International Australia Oceania returns. Stay tuned.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Hello there. Imagine Dami got the virus, and she infected 2 more. And those 2 infected a lot more of people. And it goes on and on until it became an epidemic. But what if Dami stayed at home? Then those 2 wouldn't have contracted the virus. Then those people would have not been infected. This is not just your battle, it's everyone's, and you can be a huge help. Follow social distancing, or better yet, stay at home.
The search for the best continues. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is now accepting audition entries. If you are 21 to 59 years old and have what it takes to be the next Tagisan ng Galing Grand Winner as a solo performer, duet, trio, band, or grouped act, submit your audition entries now. Just follow these guidelines. To submit audition entries for the singing category, contact Nikki at 0977-651-9504. This is your chance to be Tagisan ng Galing's grand winner and win 2 million pesos. For more details and updates, visit and like the Tagisan ng Galing Facebook page. What are you waiting for? Join now!
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News International Australia Oceania. In order to better serve the community, the library in Logan City, Queensland adapts to COVID-19 restrictions by upgrading the method of access to its resources. Eagle News correspondent Miyako Ong shares the report. Miyako?
During the 9-week lockdown between March to mid-May earlier this year, a number of libraries in Logan, Queensland have given free online resources to the community. Due to pandemic stage 1 restrictions being placed, multiple libraries were closed down, making visitations difficult. However, with the new learning strategy being launched, almost 650 new members were able to access resources during this lockdown.
As the effect of lockdown restrictions still continue, so is the struggle in accessing resources from libraries. Because of this, the Logan libraries have initiated the Home Learning Hub, dedicated in helping and supporting residents, most especially students who need help during online home learning, through the library website that includes multiple materials as well as support from library staff. A reading help service for children was also launched to help them in learning how to read and practice speaking English. In addition to this, the Logan libraries have delivered resources and books to 422 residents in late March to help them during these times. Community borrowing rose to 700 titles per day after a boost in online and digital resources. Up to 45 Logan families without computers also receive a help from Logan libraries after delivering resources to help families with homeschooling requirements. Aside from books, devices such as iPads were loaned to people who needs it. An update on the learning and discovery strategy for 2019 to 2023 was also released to improve the library system and learnings of the residents, especially at this crucial moment of everyone's life. The library workers developed a new plan for residents to access activities and programs during this time. According to the Logan Library, the program lays the well-being and experiences of the learners for the next 3 years.
The program initiated by Logan Libraries has brought hope to students and residents alike and has become one of the foundations of the city's way to recovery from the pandemic while providing COVID-safe plans to ensure that the residents will still be able to access materials for their learning needs. Reporting from Logan, Queensland, this is Miyako Ong, Eagle News, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Miyako. This truly provides a more convenient way of library use. Moving on to New South Wales. Our Sydney correspondent Ian Lanetta brings us to one of the city's famous spots, the Grounds of Alexandria, to capture a special wish that every heart makes. Take it away, Ian.
Are you feeling bored during this pandemic and trying to find a place to visit with friends and family? Perhaps you're trying to find a place where you can take great photos and update your social media. Or maybe you're trying to find a delicious sweet foods and drinks to share with a special someone. Or let's say during your childhood, you wanted to be able to enter a place where you feel like you're part of a fairy tale story. Well, you're lucky today because I'm going to share you a place where you can find and do all of those things. Join me as we explore the Grounds of Alexandria with their special theme, Cinderella. After months of lockdown during this pandemic, the place has once again finally been transformed into a magical place, this time taking inspiration from and celebrating one of the favorites and most famous Walt Disney films, Cinderella. If you are wondering why there's a magical ball appearing, it's because this marks the 70th anniversary since Cinderella's animated version first hit the big screen. As you enter the elegant floral arches, it showcases some classic artworks of the film beneath the exquisite chandeliers of crystal, which everyone can enjoy as they look around. Let's not forget the elements in the film that made Cinderella iconic, which are the mesmerizing glass slippers, her enchanted carriage that turns into a pumpkin, and some of Cinderella's beautiful dresses. A new variety of specially created themed food and drinks has also been added for everyone to enjoy. This includes a magical pumpkin sponge cake with cream cheese frosting, orange curd and buttercream, finished with orange blossom mousse and pretty blue flowers. To pair with this delicious treat is our newest beverage called Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, a blue concoction containing vanilla, lychee, and lemon juice, a must-try refreshing beverage and sweet treat that you need to have before midnight strikes. And there you have it, everyone, a small snippet of this great place where there's so many to see and so many reasons why you should be here right now where I am standing. And like the song from the film, a dream is a wish that your heart makes. So if it's your wish to be able to have a fairy tale-like experience, then this is the right place for you. Reporting from Sydney, Australia, I am Ian Lanetta, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Many thanks, Ian, for making our wishes come true. Australia is famous not only for its boundless beaches, but also its scorching summers to match. To survive and thrive in the summer heat, our Canberra correspondent Crystal Ibuna shares some tips. Crystal?
Summer is right around the corner for Australia, the season of beach and ice cream filled with scorching heat of up to 42 degrees Celsius for 3 months. Similar to other parts of the country, summer in the nation's capital is all about the heat, sun, and the pools of sweat from just sitting down. Although visiting beaches may be difficult at these times, appropriate preparations are still necessary as we welcome this annual occasion, which is the Australian summer. Sunscreen is not only for beach visits. Using sunscreen in everyday activities is also important. From the face down to your legs, wearing sunscreen with high SPF numbers such as SPF 50 and SPF 100 allows your skin to be protected and blocks up to 98% of UVB rays. Using expired sunscreen is more likely to be less effective and may give skin health issues. But if you find applying sunscreen to be taxing, wearing light and breathable clothes that covers your body is also an option. wearing hat and sunglasses to protect your face and your eyes, and using opaque umbrella is also a great way to shade yourself from the intense rays of the sun. Drinking fluids frequently is also very important as this helps replenish fluids in your body from dehydration. There are different ways everyone can make drinking fluids easier, such as making a drink depending on your preference in temperature, like a hot tea or an ice cold water. Another method is using fruits or mints to make fresh water infusers or using tea bags in your water to give it more flavor. If you're experiencing lightheadedness, dry mouth and lips, or urinary issues, it's a sign of dehydration, and in this case, immediately need to increase your water intake. To decrease the heat, you can prop yourself in front of your AC or fan with a tub of ice in front of it to cool yourself down. This is also your chance to excuse yourself with a tub of ice cream and sticks of ice pops. And if social distancing weren't a thing, a visit to the mall for free air conditioning, sitting down under a tree shade, or water park adventures would have definitely been other ways you can do to beat the heat. As long as you are properly prepared, there's no reason to dread this coming Australian summer. With sunscreen, water, ice cream, and air conditioning or a fan, even for those who doesn't appreciate the summer's heat, these can be your weapons in going through the 3-month season. Reporting from Canberra, Australia, this is Cristal Ibuna, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Crystal, for the very useful summer tips. Another celebrated element of Australia's nature are the jacaranda trees that abundantly cover the streets with a sea of purple. Let's see them bloom in the heart of Brisbane City with our correspondent Raylene Rose Javier leading the way. Raylene?
At the heart of Brisbane, a sea of purple flowers fill the streets as the season of the well-known jacaranda trees once again begin to flourish. Here at Brisbane City Botanical Gardens, people can witness a beautiful view of these blooming trees just in time for the spring season. As Brisbane begins to awake from the cold wintry period, parks, waterfronts, hills, and many more locations throughout the city begin to flourish with bursts of purple as the well-known Jacaranda mismophilia blooms. With so many spectacular places where you can witness the trees blooming, perhaps the best place to visit them is in Brisbane City Botanical Gardens, with its rich historical background when it comes to jacaranda trees. Australia's first grown jacaranda, mismophilia, was planted in 1870 here in this place. It was then made famous by the historic artwork Under the Jacaranda in 1903. By an artist named Godfrey Rivers. During the 1920s and 30s, the city's population rose. As a result, more saplings were planted across Brisbane to make the city more alluring. Although the first jacaranda tree grew proud and strong, a cyclone caused the tree to get blown over at that time. Today, however, the city's botanical garden is thriving with its sharp and elegant jacaranda trees. Showering the pathways, footpaths, and its surrounding areas, jacarandas create blankets of purple, making the scenery luxuriantly pleasing, perfect for any photo opportunity or for just even simple relaxation. Indeed, a quintessential purple spring season to enjoy for anyone who is visiting. Reporting from Brisbane, Queensland, this is Raylene Rose Javier, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Raylene, for showing us those beautiful jacarandas. And that concludes today's program. Thank you for watching Eagle News International Australia Oceania. Join us again next week as we share more stories from our bureaus across Australia, New Zealand, and Papua New Guinea. Visit our websites on eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Don't forget to follow us on twitter.com/eaglenews and on facebook.com/eaglenews. Stay safe, stay strong, and take care, everyone. From Sydney, Australia, I am Shane Reyes, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.